Why men return to you after no contact. Let me ask you something. Why? Is it that men always seem to come back after you've moved on? You've seen it happen. Maybe you've lived it. He walks away thinking he's got it all figured out. Maybe he says he needs space. Maybe he just disappears without an explanation. And at first, it stings. You wonder what you did wrong, what you could have said, what you could have changed. But then something shifts. You stop checking your phone. You start focusing on yourself. And just when you begin to feel free, here he comes. A text. A hey, how you been? A call out of nowhere. Why? Why do men return after no contact? I'll tell you why. Because men don't truly appreciate what they have until it's gone. Because silence is powerful. Because the moment he realizes you're no longer waiting for him, he starts feeling your absence in a way he never expected. See, a man might leave thinking he's making the best decision of his life. But what he doesn't understand is that time has a way of showing him the truth. And the truth is, you were never the problem. So when he comes back, it's not because he suddenly had an epiphany. It's because he finally saw what he lost. But here's the real question. When he returns, will you still want him? He finally saw what he lost. And that realization, it shakes a man in ways he never expected. See, men don't feel loss the same way women do. When a relationship ends, women process the emotions immediately. They feel the pain, they cry, they talk it out with friends, they heal in real time. But men, they delay the process, they suppress, they distract. They convince themselves they're fine because in the beginning it really does feel that way. At first, there's a sense of freedom. No more obligations, no more check-ins, no more compromises. He tells himself he made the right choice. He dives into work, into the gym, into the noise of life. Maybe he goes out more, meets new people, fills his time with distractions, and for a while, it works. He's riding the high of independence, of having no one to answer to. But here's what he doesn't realize: what a man doesn't appreciate in the moment, he will regret in the future. Because once the distractions fade, once the excitement wears off, once the nights start feeling a little too quiet, that's when the truth catches up to him. He starts thinking about the little things. The way you laughed at his dumb jokes, even when they weren't funny. The way you knew exactly what to say when he was stressed. The way your presence made even the most ordinary days feel a little brighter. He didn't notice it before because it was always there. He took for granted that you'd always be there. And now that warmth is gone. And the thing about men, they only truly value what they lose. He starts wondering what you're doing, who you're with, if you ever think about him. But here's the kicker: he won't act on it right away. No. A man's pride won't let him admit that he messed up, at least not at first. He'll watch from the shadows, maybe scrolling through your social media, maybe asking mutual friends about you. He'll convince himself he's just curious, that it's nothing serious. But the longer he goes without you, the more he feels it. That void, that ache he can't quite explain. And what does he do? He starts replaying the past, remembering the good times, romanticizing everything. See, when you were together, he had a front row seat to your love. But when you left, he had a front row seat to what life feels like without it. And let me tell you, that contrast is what wakes him up. Because now he's out there, maybe dating, maybe meeting new people, but none of them feel like you. None of them understand him the way you did. None of them make him feel the way you did. And that's when he realizes what he had with you wasn't ordinary. But by the time he comes to terms with this, you've already adjusted. You've healed. You've stepped into a version of yourself that no longer waits, no longer begs, no longer needs his validation. And that's what pulls him back. Not just the memories, not just the realization of what he lost, but the fact that you no longer need him. Men don't chase what they already have. They chase what they think they've lost. And when he finally understands that he had something rare, something real, that's when he starts running back. That's when he starts running back. But not just because he lost you, because time has shown him exactly what he walked away from. See, clarity doesn't come in the middle of the noise. It comes in the silence. It comes in the still moments when he's alone with nothing but his thoughts. In the beginning, he's moving too fast to notice it. He's filling his schedule, surrounding himself with distractions, keeping his mind occupied so he doesn't have to face what he's really feeling. But time has a way of stripping all that away. At first, he tells himself leaving was the right decision. He repeats it like a mantra, convincing himself that he made the best choice for his life, his future, his freedom. But as the days turn into weeks, as the weeks turn into months, that conviction starts to crack. Because when you remove someone from your life, you don't just remove their presence, you remove their influence, their energy, their impact. And that absence, that's where the clarity sets in. See, when a man is in a relationship, he doesn't always see the full picture. He focuses on the little annoyances, the disagreements, the expectations. Maybe he felt pressure. Maybe he felt like he was missing out on something. Maybe he thought the grass was greener somewhere else. But what he didn't see, what he couldn't see, was how much you added to his life. He thought about what he wanted in the moment, not what he would need in the long run. And that realization doesn't come overnight. It comes in phases. At first, it's just a passing thought, maybe while he's driving alone. Maybe in the middle of the night when sleep won't come as easily as it used to. A moment where your name flashes through his mind, where he catches himself reaching for the phone before pulling his hand back. Then it starts happening more often. A song plays on the radio, and it reminds him of that road trip you took together. He walks past a restaurant, and it brings back the memory of your laughter across the table. He smells your perfume on someone else, and suddenly he's back in a moment he thought he had left behind. And now he starts wondering, was leaving really the right choice? Was the frustration he felt back then really that important? Did he let go of something he was never supposed to lose? Because now, with time and distance, he can see things clearly. He can see how much you supported him, how much you believed in him, how much effort you put into loving him. He can see that the love you gave wasn't just surface level, it was deep. It was real. It was rare. And the thing about time, it doesn't just show him what he had, it shows him what he doesn't have anymore. He starts noticing the difference between being with you and being without you. He starts realizing that the connection he had with you isn't something he can just replace. Because sure, he might have tried, he might have gone on dates, he might have entertained new people, but something always felt off. The spark wasn't the same. The comfort wasn't there. The conversations felt shallow in comparison to the way you understood him without him even having to explain. And now, the clarity is undeniable. It wasn't about finding someone else. It wasn't about needing space. It wasn't even about the reasons he convinced himself were valid when he walked away. It was about the fact that he didn't realize what he had until time showed him exactly what life is like without it. Until time showed him exactly what life is like without it. And that's when the real battle begins, the one between his ego and his emotions. Because a man can recognize what he lost, he can feel the weight of that absence, but admitting it, acting on it, that's another story. See, men are wired to believe they're in control of their emotions. From an early age, they're taught to suppress, to toughen up, to keep moving forward without looking back. And when he left, that mindset told him he was doing the right thing, that he was being strong, that if he just kept pushing forward, he wouldn't feel the loss. But emotions don't follow logic. At first, his ego keeps him from fully accepting what he's feeling. It tells him, you don't miss her. You miss the routine. You don't need her. You just need something new. So he resists. He pushes those thoughts down. He convinces himself he's fine. And maybe on the surface, it looks that way. But emotions don't disappear just because you ignore them. They sit, they wait, they grow. And over time, that internal war starts getting louder. His ego still wants control. It tells him reaching out would make him look weak, that she's probably already moved on, that if he was fine before, he should be fine now. But his emotions, They're telling him a different story. They're telling him to remember the way she made him feel, the way her presence softened the hardest parts of his life, the way no matter where he goes, nothing feels quite like her. The battle plays out in the smallest moments. He types a message, then deletes it. He picks up the phone, then sets it back down. He wonders what she would say if he called, what she would do if he showed up. And every time he thinks he's pushed the thought away for good, it comes back even stronger. Because now it's not just about missing her, it's about why he misses her. See, when a man lets a good woman go, his ego will fight to protect him from the regret. It will tell him he can find someone else, that there's always another option. But emotions, they don't care about pride. They don't care about logic. They don't care about what makes sense. And when those emotions become too strong to ignore, when the silence becomes too heavy to carry, when every sign, every song, every quiet moment leads him back to her in his mind, that's when the ego starts to lose. Because now it's no longer about proving something, it's about facing the truth. And the truth is, she wasn't just someone in his life. She was the one. She was the one. And nothing makes a man realize that faster than the fear of someone else taking his place. See, up until now, it's been an internal battle, his ego versus his emotions, his pride versus his regret. But the moment he realizes that another man could step in, that another man could be making her smile, making her laugh, holding her hand, that's when the fear sets in. Because it was one thing to let her go. It was one thing to convince himself he could live without her. But the idea of another man proving that to be true, the idea of another man stepping up in ways he chose not to, that's something his pride can't handle. At first, it's just a thought, a passing worry. But thoughts have a way of turning into images. He starts picturing her with someone new, starts wondering if she's already met someone, starts imagining another man doing all the little things he used to take for granted. And that image, it haunts him. He thinks about how she used to light up when he walked into the room. Is she looking at someone else like that now? He thinks about the way she used to laugh at his jokes, even the dumb ones. Is she laughing like that with someone else? He thinks about the way she used to hold him, the way she used to touch him, the way she used to whisper to him in the quiet of the night. Is she doing that with someone else? And suddenly, the distance between them doesn't feel so safe anymore. See, before he thought he had time. He thought he could come back when he was ready, when it was convenient, when he had everything figured out. But now he's realizing that time isn't on his side, because the longer he waits, the more he risks losing her for good. He starts checking in subtle ways, watching her stories, liking an old post, maybe even sending a, "Hey, hope you're doing well." Something, anything to remind her that he still exists, that he's still in the picture. Because if he can keep himself in her mind, even in the smallest way, then maybe, just maybe, still has a chance. But if she doesn't respond, if she keeps moving forward, keeps glowing, keeps growing, that's when panic sets in. That's when he realizes this isn't just a break, isn't just a phase. This is real. And when a man sees that he's about to lose something for good, when he sees that someone else might be stepping up in ways he never did, that's when he starts running back. That's when he starts running back. But here's the thing. He doesn't just run back because he misses her. He doesn't just run back because he's afraid of another man stepping in. He runs back because deep down he knows he wasn't ready before. See, sometimes a man walks away not because he doesn't care, not because the love wasn't real, but because he wasn't in a place to handle it. Maybe he thought he was. Maybe he told himself he was. But real love requires more than just feelings. It requires presence. It requires consistency. It requires maturity. And the hard truth is, some men have to lose something good to realize they weren't ready for it in the first place. At the time, he thought he needed freedom. He thought he needed space to figure himself out, to chase his goals, to build his life the way he envisioned it. And in his mind, a relationship with an incredible woman felt like something holding him back. Not because it actually was, but because he wasn't mature enough to see that real love doesn't take away from your life, it adds to it. But he couldn't see that then. All he saw were the expectations, the responsibilities, the parts of a relationship that required him to show up, to communicate, to be present in ways he wasn't ready to be. So He walked away thinking he was making the right choice, thinking he needed to find himself first. And for a while, he believed that. But time has a way of teaching lessons that words never could. Because now, after being alone, after chasing whatever he thought he needed, after sitting in the quiet and realizing that nothing feels the same without her, he's not just missing her. He's growing. He's seeing things he couldn't see before. He's understanding the value of what he had. He's realizing that the version of himself who walked away wasn't the man he was meant to be. And this is what shifts everything. Because a man who hasn't changed will come back just to soothe his own ego, just to fill the void, just to see if she still cares. But a man who has truly grown will come back with a different energy. He'll come back with accountability. He won't just say he misses her. He'll own the fact that he'll come back with clarity. He won't just talk about feeling, she'll talk about actions and what he's willing to do differently. He'll come back with intention. He won't just want to pick up where things left off. He'll want to rebuild something stronger. And that's the difference between a man who is just afraid of losing her and a man who finally understands what it means to deserve her. See, when he first had her, he thought love was just about connection, about chemistry, about how good it felt in the moment. He thought that as long as the feelings were there, the relationship would take care of itself. But now he understands that love isn't just about how much you want someone, it's about how much you're willing to work for them. Because the truth is, love doesn't stay alive by accident. It's not just something you fall into and expect to last. It requires effort. It requires consistency. It requires a level of commitment he wasn't ready to give before. But now, after losing her, after feeling the weight of her absence, after growing into a version of himself that can finally see the bigger picture, he knows that wanting her back isn't enough. So now if he comes back, he won't just come back with words. He won't just come back with apologies and promises. He'll come back with action. Because this time he understands that real love is something you build, something you protect, something you earn. And now the only question left is, will she still be there to see it? And now the only question left is, will she still be there to see it? Because here's the truth, not every man who leaves deserves a second chance. Some men come back because they truly get it now, because they've grown, because they've learned, because they're finally ready to show up the way they should have from the start. But others come back because they can't handle the idea of losing, because their ego took a hit, because they don't like seeing you move on without them. And that's where your power lies. See, the most important part of this whole thing, it was never about why he left. It was never about the time apart. It was never even about him realizing what he lost. It was about what you did during that time. Did you sit around waiting, hoping, checking your phone every night? Or did you heal? Did you grow? Did you become the kind of woman who knows her worth so deeply that when he finally comes back, it's not about whether he wants you, it's about whether he deserves you? Because a man returning is never the victory. The victory is when you no longer need him to.